Welcome to World Rare Coins Vault, where today we're uncovering top 4 rare UK 1 penny coins that collectors may want to look out for. We'll be looking at a 2012 penny in outdated condition, a 1992 penny with a dirty appearance, a 1988 penny with black shade, and a circulated 2001 penny. Some ordinary-looking coins can be more interesting than they first appear, so stay with us until the end and see what makes these 4 pennies worth checking in your collection. Let's get started up with the 2012 UK 1 penny, a modern British coin that may look familiar to millions of people, yet can become much more interesting when we examine its design, condition, collectability, and possible unusual characteristics. Our focus today is a 2012 penny in an outdated condition, so stay with me because we're going to explore what this coin is, how it was made, what appears on both sides, how much it weighs, what affects its rarity, and just for this high-demand collector-style feature, the exciting hypothetical values this type of coin could attract if a genuinely exceptional rarity or major minting error were discovered. The 2012 British 1 penny belongs to the modern era of UK coinage and carries a familiar design introduced for the decimal penny. The 1 penny has been an important part of everyday British currency for decades, and by 2012 it was already a very recognizable denomination. Millions of pennies have passed through shops, tills, pockets, and old jars, which is exactly why collectors often recommend looking carefully rather than automatically assuming that every modern penny is worthless. Now, let's take a closer look at the portrait and the 2 sides of this fascinating little coin. On the obverse, the 2012 1 penny carries a portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, who appears facing to the right. Her portrait represents the monarch of the United Kingdom during the period when this coin was issued and gives the coin a strong connection to its historical era. Around the portrait are the inscriptions associated with the monarch and the United Kingdom, creating the classic appearance that collectors instantly recognize. When you turn the coin over, the reverse reveals the iconic seated portcullis design. The portcullis has been used on the British 1 penny for many years and is closely associated with the denomination. It represents a traditional symbol connected with strength and security, while a crown above it adds another distinctly British element. The date 2012 is also a crucial detail for identification, and collectors should always inspect the lettering, date, rim, and major design elements carefully when examining a coin. Another interesting point is the weight. A standard modern UK 1 penny of this period is made to a precise specification, with a weight of approximately 3.56 grams and a diameter of about 20.3 millimeters. That may sound like a tiny amount of metal, but for collectors, weight can provide an important clue. If you discover a 2012 penny that weighs noticeably different from the expected specification, do not immediately assume that it is valuable. First, the coin should be weighed using an accurate digital scale, because dirt damage, where an inaccurate household scales can produce misleading results. However, a significant difference can be worth investigating, particularly if it is accompanied by something unusual in the strike, lettering, shape, or edge. This is where careful examination becomes much more important than simply looking at the date. Now we come to the condition of this particular example, described as being an outdated condition, a coin showing age-related appearance. Surface marks, dirt, darkening, or signs of circulation can certainly look less attractive than a brilliant, uncirculated example. But collectors should remember that condition and rarity are 2 different things. A worn coin can still be interesting if it possesses a genuine, unusual feature, while a perfectly clean-looking coin can remain common if millions of identical examples exist. With this 2012 penny, examine the high points of the design, the Queen's portrait, the portcullis, the date, the lettering, and especially the rim. Look for signs of heavy wear, scratches, corrosion, or unusual marks, but also watch for features that could potentially be related to the manufacturing process. Natural toning and ordinary dirt should not automatically be mistaken for a mint error. And now for the part that gets collectors excited, the market value. Let's be very clear that the following figures are fictional, hypothetical values for this video's high-demand scenario, not verified prices for an ordinary 2012 1 penny. A normal circulated 2012 penny would not ordinarily be expected to sell for thousands of dollars simply because of its date. However, imagine that a remarkable example were discovered with an exceptionally rare and authenticated minting error. In our hypothetical collector scenario, Such a coin could attract an attention-grabbing figures of around $2,500 or $2,500. A more dramatic and exceptionally rare error could be imagined at $7,500 or $7,500, while an extraordinary, authenticated example with a spectacular production mistake and strong collector competition could theoretically be presented in a fictional scenario at $15,000 or $15,000. But remember, these exciting numbers should never be confused with the normal market value of an ordinary 2012 penny. A coin dealer, auction house, or professional grading service would need to examine any potentially rare example before a serious valuation could be made. The difference between a normal coin and a genuinely rare error can be enormous, and that is why collectors should never rely solely on dramatic claims they see online. Authentication, provenance, condition, and the exact nature of the variety or error are all extremely important. The most valuable coins are valuable because collectors can demonstrate exactly why they are unusual. If you have a 2012 penny at home, there are several sensible things you can do before making any decision about it. Start by handling the coin carefully and avoid aggressive cleaning. Do not polish it, scrape it, rub it with chemicals, or attempt to make an old-looking coin appear new. Cleaning can permanently damage the original surface and may actually reduce collector interest. Instead, hold the coin under good lighting and examine both sides slowly. Check the date, lettering, portrait, portcullis, rim, and edge. Compare the coin with another normal 2012 penny, if you have one available. A side-by-side comparison can sometimes make an unusual feature much easier to recognize. If something genuinely looks different, record the weight and measurements, and consider having the coin examined by an experienced numismatist or reputable professional grading service. Next up, the 1992 UK 1 penny, an everyday decimal coin that has now become an interesting subject for collectors, especially when an example has a distinctive appearance or an unusual feature. This particular example is described as being in dirty condition, but don't let that immediately make you dismiss it. In the world of numismatics, the story behind a coin, its production details, condition, and any genuine unusual characteristics can all influence collector interest. So stay with us as we examine this 1992 penny from every important angle and explore its fascinating background and hypothetical high-value possibilities. The 1992 1 penny belongs to the modern British decimal coinage era and carries one of the most recognizable designs in UK currency. By the early 1990s, the 1 penny had already been part of everyday British life for many years. These small copper-colored coins could be found in pockets, tills, purses, and household coin jars across the country. Because pennies were produced for everyday spending, many examples experienced plenty of handling and circulation. That makes condition particularly important today. A coin that has spent years in circulation can develop scratches, marks, darkening, and accumulated dirt, while another example from the same year may have been stored carefully and retained much sharper details. This is why two coins bearing exactly the same date can have noticeably different levels of collector appeal. When we look at the obverse, the most recognizable feature is the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, facing to the right. Her portrait identifies the coin as part of the period in which she was the reigning monarch of the United Kingdom. The inscriptions surrounding the portrait provide further confirmation of its British origin and the monarch represented. Turning the coin over reveals the traditional portcullis design, a familiar symbol on the British 1 penny. The portcullis is topped by a crown and surrounded by the wording and date associated with the denomination. The design is relatively simple at first glance, but collectors know that small details can be extremely important. When examining a 1992 penny, pay close attention to the date, lettering, rim, central design, and overall strike. Any genuine difference from a standard example should be investigated carefully rather than immediately being considered a valuable error. The physical specifications of the coin also give us another useful way to identify it. A standard modern British 1 penny from this period has a weight of approximately 3.56 grams and diameter of around 20.3 millimeters. These measurements are useful because collectors can compare an unusual-looking coin with expected specifications. If your 1992 penny weighs considerably more or less than expected, that does not automatically mean you have a rare coin. A digital scale can have a margin of error, and dirt or other material on the coin can affect the reading slightly. Nevertheless, a substantial and repeatable difference can be a reason for further investigation, particularly when a weight difference is accompanied by an unusual strike, shape, edge, or design feature. Now, let's talk about the condition of this particular 1992 penny. It is described as being in dirty condition, and this is an important distinction. Dirt alone does not make a coin rare or valuable. In fact, collectors generally prefer coins with attractive original surfaces rather than coins that have been heavily cleaned or chemically treated. A dirty appearance may simply reflect years of storage or circulation. The safest approach is not to attack the surface with household cleaners, metal polish, or abrasive materials. Cleaning a coin aggressively can leave scratches and permanently alter its natural surface. Instead, examine it carefully under good lighting and determine whether the unusual appearance is simply accumulated dirt, natural toning, or something genuinely connected with the manufacturing process. This is where rarity becomes particularly important. A 1992 penny is not automatically rare just because it is over 30 years old. Age alone is not enough to transform an ordinary coin into a valuable rarity. Collectors look for genuine scarcity, unusual varieties, authenticated minting errors, and exceptional condition. A coin with a major production error can potentially attract far more attention than a heavily circulated normal example. Likewise, a very high-grade coin can appeal to collectors looking to build premium quality sets. But the key word is genuine. Many unusual marks found on circulated coins are simply damage that occurred after the coin left the mint. Scratches, dents, stains, and environmental damage can make a coin look different without adding significant numismatic value. And now we reach the exciting part of today's feature, the hypothetical market values. The following figures are fictional examples created for this video and should not be taken as genuine market prices for an ordinary 1992 UK 1 penny. Imagine, however, that a remarkable 1992 penny were discovered with a spectacular and professionally authenticated minting error in a dramatic collector scenario. Such a coin could be imagined at around $2,000 or $2,000. If the error were considerably rarer and attracted strong competition between collectors, our fictional scenario could place the value at $6,500 or $6,500. And for an extraordinary example combining a dramatic minting error, excellent preservation, and exceptional collector demand, we could imagine a headline figure $12,000 or $12,000. Those eye-catching figures make for an exciting treasure hunting story, but it's essential to separate entertainment from a genuine valuation. A normal dirty or circulated 1992 penny should not be assumed to be worth thousands of dollars. The actual value of any individual coin depends on its precise characteristics, authenticity, condition, and the level of collector demand. If you believe your coin has a genuine minting error, professional examination is the best way to establish whether the feature occurred during production or developed later through circulation and damage. There is something particularly enjoyable about searching through ordinary pennies because they are so accessible. You do not necessarily need an expensive collection to begin learning about numismatics. A handful of old coins, a good light, and a reliable scale can provide hours of interesting research. The 1988 1 penny. Examine its portrait and reverse design. Discuss its weight and physical characteristics. Look at what really determines rarity. And finish by exploring some exciting hypothetical high-value scenarios in US dollars. So stay with us, because this small British penny has plenty of details worth discovering. The 1988 1 penny comes from an important period in modern British decimal coinage. By the late 1980s, the decimal 1 penny had already been circulating for many years and had become a familiar part of everyday life throughout the United Kingdom. These coins were used regularly in shops, collected in purses, and kept in household coin jars. Because of this heavy circulation, many surviving examples show scratches, marks, fading, dirt, and changes in color. A coin that has spent decades exposed to air, moisture, different environments, and other coins can develop a darker appearance over time. This is particularly interesting when looking at a coin described as having a black shade, because the color may come from natural toning, environmental exposure, or surface contamination, rather than from an original mint characteristic. Turning our attention to the obverse, the 1988 one penny features the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, facing to the right. This portrait identifies the monarch during the period when the coin was issued and gives the coin a clear connection with British history. Around the portrait are the inscriptions identifying the Queen and the United Kingdom. The design is instantly recognizable to anyone familiar with British decimal coinage. When we turn the coin over, we find the traditional portcullis design on the reverse. Above the portcullis is a crown, while the denomination and date form part of the surrounding design. The portcullis has a long association with the British one penny, making this reverse particularly familiar to collectors of modern UK decimal coins. When examining a 1988 example, it is worth looking carefully at the date, lettering, rim, portrait, and portcullis, rather than concentrating only on the coin's color. The physical specifications provide another useful clue when examining this coin. A standard British one penny from this era weighs approximately 3.56 grams and measures around 20.3 millimeters in diameter. These specifications can be particularly helpful when investigating a coin that appears unusual. If a 1988 penny looks different from another example, weighing both coins on a reliable digital scale can provide useful information. A small difference does not necessarily mean anything unusual, because scales can vary in dirt or where it can affect readings. However, a significant and repeatable difference may justify further investigation, especially if the coin also has an unusual shape, strike, edge, or design characteristic. Now let's focus on the most noticeable feature of today's example. The black shade. A darker surface can certainly make a coin visually striking, but collectors need be careful when interpreting color. Natural toning can occur as a coin reacts with its surrounding environment over a long period. A coin stored in certain conditions may become darker, while another example from exactly the same year can retain a much lighter appearance. Dirt, oxidation, and environmental exposure can also alter the surface. In some cases, however, a dark appearance can result from cleaning attempts, chemicals, or other forms of post-mint damage. That is why color by itself should never be used as proof of rarity. The condition of the coin is equally important. If this 1988 penny has circulated for many years, it may show marks around the high points of Queen Elizabeth II portrait, the portcullis, and the lettering. Scratches, small dents in surface where it can all reduce its grade. On the other hand, if the coin has an unusually strong strike and retains sharp design details despite its darker appearance, collectors may find it more interesting. The important point is that condition and rarity are separate factors. A worn coin can still be rare if it possesses a genuine and desirable variety, while an exceptionally clean coin can remain common if many identical examples exist. This brings us to the question everyone wants answered. Could a 1988 one penny really be worth thousands of dollars? For an ordinary example, you should not assume that it is. The following values are fictional, hypothetical figures for this high-demand YouTube presentation, not verified market values for a standard 1988 penny. Imagine, however, that a spectacular 1988 example was discovered with major, professionally authenticated minting error. In our hypothetical scenario, such a coin could attract attention at around $2,500, which is $2,500. If the error were exceptionally unusual and collectors competed strongly for it, we could imagine a fictional value of $7,000 or $7,000. In an extreme collector scenario involving a dramatic error, outstanding preservation, and strong international demand, we could even imagine a headline figure of $15,000 or $15,000. These figures make the search exciting, but it is essential to understand what would have to make such a coin genuinely valuable. The black shade alone would not normally justify a value of thousands of dollars. A valuable coin needs a convincing reason for its rarity. That could involve a genuine minting error, a recognized variety, an exceptionally unusual production mistake, or another feature that professional specialists can authenticate. Damage acquired after the coin left the mint is usually treated very differently from an error created during production. This distinction is one of the most important lessons for anyone beginning to collect coins. If you have a dark or black shaded 1988 penny, the best thing you can do is resist the temptation to clean it immediately. Do not use metal polish, abrasive materials, or household chemicals. Try and make the coin shiny can permanently damage the original surface and potentially reduce its collector appeal. Instead, examine it carefully under good lighting. Look at the date, the queen's portrait, the lettering, the portcullis, the rim, and the edge. Compare it with another 1988 penny, if you have one. Weigh it accurately and look for features that appear genuinely different from a normal example. If you find something that cannot easily be explained by wear, dirt, or environmental exposure, that is when professional examination becomes worthwhile. Next up, the 2001 one penny belongs to the later period of Queen Elizabeth II's first reign and continues a familiar design that had been used on British one penny coins for many years. By the beginning of the new millennium, pennies remained an important part of everyday British currency. They were used in shops, tills, vending machines, pockets, and purses, and countless examples traveled to the hands of the public. Because of that everyday use, circulated examples from 2001 can show a wide variety of surface conditions. Some may be relatively clean and sharp, while others can display scratches, small dents, dirt, fading, and general wear. This makes condition an important factor when examining any individual coin. On the obverse, the 2001 one penny features a familiar portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, facing to the right. The portrait represents the monarch who was on the throne when the coin was issued and provides an important historical connection to the period. Around the portrait are the inscriptions identifying the Queen and the United Kingdom. For collectors, the portrait is more than simply a decorative image. It is one of the principal features used to identify the coin and its issue period. When examining a circulated 2001 penny, look carefully at the highest points of the portrait. These areas normally show wear first, so their sharpness can give you an indication of how heavily the coin has circulated. Turn the coin over and you will see the traditional portcullis reverse, one of the most recognizable designs associated with the British one penny. The portcullis is shown beneath the crown, with the denomination and other inscriptions completing the design. The reverse has a strong traditional appearance and has helped make the British penny instantly recognizable for generations. On a circulated example, the portcullis can lose some of its finer detail through repeated contact with other coins and surfaces. The date 2001 is particularly important because it confirms the exact year of the issue. Collectors should inspect the numerals carefully and also look at the lettering, rim, and alignment of the design for anything that appears genuinely unusual. Another useful feature to examine is the coin's physical specification. A standard modern British one penny from this period has a weight of approximately 3.56 grams and a diameter of about 20.3 millimeters. These measurements give collectors a useful reference when investigating an unusual coin. If you have a 2001 penny that appears significantly different from a normal example, placing on a reliable digital scale can be a sensible first step. However, a slightly different reading does not automatically indicate a rare coin. Scales can vary in accuracy, and dirt or damage can affect the result. What matters is whether a difference is significant, repeatable, and accompanied by another genuine, unusual characteristic. Now, let's focus on the circulated condition of this particular 2001 penny. Circulation can leave its mark in many ways. The raised portions of the Queen's portrait can become smoother. The portcullis can lose some definition, and the rim may show small marks from contact with other coins. The surface can also develop scratches, darker areas, or general signs of handling. For collectors, these characteristics help tell the story of the coin's journey through everyday life. A circulated coin is not necessarily uninteresting, but its condition usually needs to be considered carefully when assessing its collector appeal. This is also where we need to separate condition from rarity. A circulated coin may be common, while an uncirculated example of the same date may be more desirable because of its preservation. However, neither condition nor age alone automatically creates great value. A coin becomes especially interesting when it combines genuine rarity with collector demand. For example, an authenticated minting error could potentially attract far more attention than an ordinary circulated example. Likewise, an unusual recognized variety can become a desirable addition to a specialized collection. The key is evidence. A strange mark or damaged area that occurred after the coin entered circulation is not the same as a genuine error created during the minting process. And now we arrive at the question that every treasure hunter wants to hear. What could a 2001 penny be worth? For clarity, the values I'm about to mention are fictional, hypothetical figures created for this YouTube presentation, not genuine market values for a normal circulated 2001 one penny. Imagine that someone discovered a spectacular 2001 penny carrying an exceptionally rare and professionally authenticated minting error. In our high-demand fictional scenario, such an example could be imagined at around $2,000 or $2,000. If the error were even more unusual and attracted serious competition from collectors, we could imagine a fictional value of $5,500 or $5,500. And in an extraordinary scenario involving a dramatic production error, exceptional preservation, and intense collector demand, the headline figure could reach $10,000 or $10,000. These figures are exciting, but the important message is an ordinary circulated 2001 penny should not automatically be valued at thousands of dollars. The hypothetical values would only make sense in a scenario where the coin had a genuinely rare and authenticated characteristic. This is why collectors need to be cautious when they see sensational claims about modern pennies. A coin can look unusual because it's been scratched, stained, bent, chemically altered, or damaged during circulation. Such post-mint damage is very different from an error created while the coin was being produced. If you have a circulated 2001 penny, one of the best things you can do is examine it without changing its original condition. Avoid polishing or cleaning the coin with household products. Aggressive cleaning can leave permanent scratches and remove the natural surface that collectors may want to preserve. Instead, use good lighting and inspect the coin slowly. Look at the date, Queen's portrait lettering, portcullis, rim and edge. Compare it with another ordinary 2001 penny. A comparison coin can make unusual features much easier to identify. If you notice something genuinely different, weigh the coin using an accurate scale and record what you find. It is also worth remembering that the most successful collectors are usually patient. They don't decide that a coin is rare after looking at it for 5 seconds. They compare, investigate, and verify. If a feature appears promising, seek the opinion of an experienced numismatist or reputable professional before assuming that you have discovered something valuable. This approach not only prevents disappointment, but also helps you learn how genuine mint errors and recognized varieties are identified. There is something special about a circulated 2001 penny because it represents everyday British life at the beginning of a new millennium. Think about how many transactions a small coin like this could have been part of. It may have traveled through shops, pockets, and cash registers before eventually ending up in a collection or forgotten coin jar. Even when a coin is not rare, its history can make it fascinating. And when you combine that history with careful examination, you can begin to appreciate why coin collecting continues to attract people around the world. So, as we bring today's investigation to a close, the 2001 UK 1 penny is certainly worth examining, particularly when you come across an example with an unusual feature. It's Queen Elizabeth II portrait, classic portcullis reverse, approximately 3.56 gram weight, and 2001 date. Make it easy to identify, while its circulated condition tells us that it has experienced real everyday use. In our fictional high-value scenarios, we explored figures of $2,000, $5,500, and $10,000, or $2,000, $5,500, and $10,000. But these are deliberately hypothetical figures rather than claims about the ordinary market value of this coin. The real lesson is simple. Don't overlook your pennies. Check them carefully. Protect their original surfaces, and learn the difference between normal circulation damage and genuine minting characteristics. You don't need to assume that every old-looking coin is valuable. Instead, enjoy the investigation and let the evidence tell the story. So the next time a 2001 penny appears in an old jar, drawer, or collection, take a second look before putting it away. Inspect the portrait. Study the reverse. Check the date and look closely at anything unusual. You may simply be holding a common piece of British currency history, or you may discover a feature that deserves professional attention. That is the excitement of coin collecting. And here at World Rare Coins Vault, we're always searching for the next fascinating discovery.